The 5 shooters never gave a credible explanation for their actions. But by the time the Tillmans had unredacted the entire box of documents, they understood that the deception about their son's death went much higher than the soldiers on the ground.
Pat Tillman has been killed 45 minutes later. He's been killed by fratricide. Oh shit. What do we do now? Okay, let's spin this as a heroic action. We'll turn his dead body into a recruiting poster.
They destroyed his uniform, his body armor, his helmet, his diary. Every piece of evidence that could ever be used to explain what happened is eliminated.
You know, you just don't do shit without telling your superior officer. Oh, I'm gonna go burn Pat's uniform. No. You don't piss without permission. So, this goes pretty damn high.
Once the Tillmans shifted their focus to the higher-ups responsible for the cover-up, the lead investigator assigned to their case began publicly suggesting that it was time to move on.
I don't know, these people have a hard time letting it go. And maybe because of their religious beliefs. So I don't know how an atheist thinks.
Right.
But I can only imagine that would be pretty tough.
Right.
If you're an atheist and you don't believe in anything, if you die, what is there to go to? Nothing. You're worm dirt. It's pretty hard to get your head around that.
So you suspect that's probably a reason for this thing is dragging on?
I think so. There's not a whole lot of trust in the system.
Right.
Or faith in the system.
It was my understanding at the time that this investigation is over. That this has been closed. They're not going to give me the truth. It's a done deal. And that being said, there's not much I can do to force the issue. So I wrote them a letter. I just went through and blew out just about everything they consider to be a fact and explained to them why that is a lie, and concluded by telling them that I have low regard for them. I just wanted to tell somebody off.
Unbeknownst to Pat Sr., the Army considered the wording of his letter to be a formal accusation of criminal misconduct. This automatically initiated a new investigation by the Inspector General's office.
Thank all of you for being here today.
It's kind of obnoxious that the letter did have the impact that it did. It's like, wait a minute, my mom has been working her ass off for years. And if she knew all she had to do was tell you to go fuck yourself and you'd actually do your job, I'm pretty sure she would have done that 2.5 years before.
After an 18-month inquiry, the Army Secretary announced that the military was finally ready to assign blame.
Later, we present to you the results of the Wallace investigation into the tragic death of Corporal Pat Tillman.
I'm on my way to an anniversary in Las Vegas. I get a phone call from my wife that says, hey, you're on CNN.
Up first this hour, new information about who bungled the initial probe into the friendly fire death of Army Ranger and former football star Pat Tillman. Let's go to the news conference right now over at the Pentagon. Let's listen in.
General Wallace did find a senior official, Lieutenant General Kinsinger, the senior leader in the administrative chain of command for the 75th Ranger Regiment, found him guilty of deception. General Kinsinger was the captain of that ship, and his ship ran aground. It ran aground because he failed to do his duty.
Devastating. Devastating to be called the villain in the process, or the captain who ran his ship aground and left all his soldiers down.
He let his soldiers down.
General Kinsinger was the public face of the Army in the weeks after Pat's death.
I will not be taking questions.
The Army said that Kinsinger knew about the fratricide when he attended Pat's memorial service. He would be stripped of his third star. But as a reporter noted, there may have been another reason why Kinsinger took the fall.
A lot of people, yet all the blame falls on General Kinsinger. I'm just trying to make some sense of that. He happens to be retired. Is there a coincidence there?
The fact that
he's the only one who's really being singled out for the harshest punishment.
I believe the buck stops with General Kinzinger. He was the senior leader in the chain of command for...
I don't think the buck stops at Kinzinger. There's no way that this cover-up started at the 3-star level. It had to go much higher than that.
And you look at what General Kinzinger's role was.
I don't think Kinzinger would have been inclined to cover it up if he wasn't ordered to.
If he performed his duty, we wouldn't be standing here today.
I mean, he was culpable. I mean, he could have easily picked up the phone and called us, but, this is their life. This is their career, and they're terrified of losing what they've worked so hard for.
My wife says I'm too much of a soldier. I've been doing it, since 17. When somebody tells me something, tells me to go do something, you say, in the Army, you salute and, about face and go get it done. To think that, this is how, you get treated.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
With the end of the press conference, the Army declared the Tillman matter over. But 2 days later, as if in response to this, a reporter received an anonymous leak. It was a copy of a top-secret internal communique known as a P4 memo, sent just 7 days after Pat's death and a full month before the family learned of the fratricide.
After this briefing that we received from the Inspector General, someone from Associated Press was sent a P4 memo that went out to the highest generals in the land.
Not only did the P4 memo clearly state that Pat was killed by friendly fire, but it left no doubt that the cover-up reached well above General Kinzinger's rank. General Stanley McChrystal had sent the P4 memo on April 29th, after White House speechwriters had requested details about Pat's death from the Pentagon.
The P4 memo states they must warn the president about this because they'll be giving speeches and that they shouldn't be embarrassed if the circumstances of Pat's death become public.
He set aside a career in athletics and...
The warning seemed to work. In a speech given 2 days before the memorial service, the president avoided the very details of Pat's death that his speechwriters had requested.
Friends say that this young man saw the images of September the 11th, and seeing that evil, he felt called to defend America.
It's like our suspicions in the beginning were very much validated by that P4 memo. These generals had plenty of time to make sure that we as a family were told the truth, but they chose not to tell us.
The P4 memo clearly showed that while America was being told the valorous account of Pat's death, the entire chain of command not only knew it was a lie, but were urgently concerned about the implications should the truth get out. Armed with this new evidence, the family was able to take their case above the military. And in April 2007, the House of Representatives convened hearings to investigate whether there had been a cover-up in the Tillman case. The first testimony given was from the man who had remained silent throughout the ordeal, Pat's brother, Kevin Tillman. Even after discovering that the entire platoon had been lying to him about the fratricide, Kevin had insisted on completing the full term of his enlistment. Once he got out of the Army, Kevin went into seclusion, refusing until now to speak publicly about his brother.
My name is Kevin Tillman. 2 days ago marked the 3rd anniversary of the death of my older brother, Pat Tillman, Spear, Afghanistan. To our family and friends, it was a devastating loss. To the nation, it was a moment of disorientation. To the military, it was a nightmare. But to others within the government, it appears to have been an opportunity. A terrible tragedy was transformed into an inspirational message that served instead to support the nation's foreign policy wars. After the truth of Pat's death was partially revealed, the Army was now left with the task of briefing our family and answering our questions. With any luck, our family would sink quietly into our grief, and the whole unsavory episode would be swept under the rug. However, they miscalculated our family's reaction. Through the amazing strength and perseverance of my mother, the most amazing woman on earth, our family has managed to have multiple investigations conducted. However, while each investigation gathered more information, the mountain of evidence was never used to arrive at an honest or even sensible conclusion. That is why we ask Congress, as the sovereign representative of the whole people, to investigate Pat's death. Anything less than the truth is a betrayal of those values that all soldiers who have fought for this nation have sought to uphold. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Ms. Tillman, I know he was speaking for both of you. Is there anything you want to add briefly? Or
I would like to say we have been asked over and over again, well, what can we do for your family? How can we appease you? And it makes me sick. It's not about our family. Our family will never be satisfied. We'll never have Pat back. But what is so outrageous is this isn't about Pat. This is about what they did to a nation. Pat died for this country, and he believed it was a great country that had a system that worked. It's not perfect. No one has ever said that. But to write these glorious tales is really a disservice to Pat and to all the other soldiers. You're diminishing their true heroism. It may not be pretty, it may not be like out of a John Wayne movie, but that's not what war is all about. It's ugly, it's bloody, it's painful. Everyone should understand what's going on. And we shouldn't have smoke screens thrown in our face.
thank you.
Pat Tillman was the most famous enlisted man in the military. Pat Tillman is killed. It's obvious that it was fratricide. The idea, the very idea that anyone in that chain of command would dare keep this information from anyone above them is absolutely inconceivable. Pat Tillman received a letter congratulating him on his enlistment under the signature of Donald Rumsfeld. The Secretary of Defense didn't give me a congratulations letter whenever I joined the Army.
Not only did Rumsfeld write a letter to Pat right after he enlisted, but he also sent a high-priority email to the Secretary of the Army saying that this guy is very special. We need to keep an eye on him.
At the urging of the Tillmans, the investigating committee requested testimony from the recipients of the P4 memo, as well as Secretary Rumsfeld and General Richard Myers.
We finally were face-to-face with, the highest generals in the land, the former Secretary of Defense. And then we also had people that have the power to make these guys accountable.
General Abizaid, let me start with you. When did you receive this memo?
On the 29th, General McChrystal sent his message, and it went to my headquarters in Tampa, and it was not retransmitted for reasons of difficulties with our systems within the headquarters until the 6th at the earliest.
Yeah. General Abizaid didn't get the facts, and there was a mix-up at the office. That's a good one.
Probably the 6th. It's a guess. I can't be sure exactly the date.
Abizaid is responsible for the entire Middle East and North Africa, and this guy's not going to be informed?
Well, General Myers, let's turn to you.
The other generals recounted similar stories.
I can't tell you. I don't know how I knew. To the best of my knowledge, I've never seen this P4.
Sir, I'm first of all, on the message on the P4, I was an info addressee, which is not the primary addressee.
In the next 3 hours, the committee would hear some variation of the phrase, "I don't recall,"
I can't tell you.
82 times.
I just don't know.
Incredibly, this urgent warning had somehow slipped through the cracks.
There is an interesting thing about the P4 that says delivered during normal duty hours. And so, again, General McChrystal...
Oh, it was very disappointing. I mean, that's not even the word. We were angry. All the generals were lying. And I think they should have been called on a lot of things, and they weren't.
I thought this was an oversight committee. To me, an oversight committee is someone that does a little bit of investigation. It's not a cheerleading outfit.
I believe this is appropriately handled, and those who made errors were held accountable. 99.9% of the military do an outstanding job, and I thank you for setting an example. These folks were held accountable. Is that correct, General Myers, all generals?
From what I understand, that's correct.
Okay.
And, you know, a lot of politics is theatrical wrestling, you know, in which behind the scenes it's like, okay, let's don't get anybody hurt.
Mr. Secretary, thank you for being with us today. How and when did you learn that Corporal Tillman had been killed?
I don't recall precisely how I learned that he was killed.
Okay. Before he did so, were you aware that President Bush was going to reference Corporal Tillman in a correspondence dinner speech on May 1st?
No.
It was embarrassing to watch.
I have no recollection of discussing it with the White
These
House.
guys didn't have the ammunition to cross-examine him and catch him in a lie.
Well, let me conclude the hearing by just indicating the facts that General Myers and General Brown knew at the end of April. General Abizaid learned on May 6th. Secretary Rumsfeld learned on May 20th. Yet
Could
I
make a point here?
I want to make sure it's precisely accurate. I do not believe I testified that I learned on May 20th. And if that impression's been left, I don't want that left.
Okay.
My testimony is that I just simply do not know when I first learned of the possibility of
Well, I
fratricide.
appreciate that correction.
And sir, if I may, I also wanted to make sure that the 6th is a logical day. It's not the day.
Okay.
It's the best that my staff and I could come to the conclusion.
Well, you were all very busy. There was no question about it.
Sir, one other thing, if I could interrupt to
Yes.
Also correct it. Your statement was that I knew about the friendly fire. I knew that there was an investigation ongoing about the potential for friendly fire.
That goes for me, too. That's exactly right.
And for me as well.
Okay.
At the point that they let Abizaid off the hook, that's the point where Danny knew, you know, that this is as far as it's going to go.
Thank you. Sure. That concludes our business, and the committee hearing is adjourned.
On the way out of the congressional hearing, this congressman squats down next to me and he holds out his hand to shake my hand. And he just wanted to tell me that he's proud of me and he's proud of my son. I just said, get out of here. Get away from me. He would not go away. He wanted to keep talking. I pulled my hand away from him. I said, get out of here. Right now, get away from me. Where does this stuff end? It's been 4 years. None of the actors in this matter have been held accountable. But that's certainly no fault of Danny's.
Pat would be nothing but unbelievably proud for her. You know, I mean, she took it as far as she could take it. She did everything in her power to fight for Pat. And, I mean, she knocked it out of the park. You know, unfortunately, the fucking government moved the fence back. And it, you know, that was it.
It's about all I can do at this point. We've sort of, you know, the questioning has sort of run its course. But I guess I held out hope that at the last hour we would get answers, but no, that's not what happened. I don't think there's much else that can be done.